today, June 11th, 2026. I can confirm we have a quorum, so we're ready to proceed. The first item on the agenda will be public comments. Do we have anybody on Zoom for public comments?
No hands raised?
Nobody. Okay, then we move on to the third agenda item, which is appointment energy navigators. I believe that
Yes,
Roger.
Cecilia Buckley is going to be reporting on Energy Navigators.
Yes, thank you.
Please have it. Yeah,
Oh, good table.
a bit closer to us.
Okay, thank you. So as I think some of you know, and in fact some of you are part of this effort, the Energy Navigators is a project that began about a year ago. It's a partnership with the Cape Light Compact, and the intent is to create a core of volunteers, a cadre of volunteers who can serve as neighbors helping neighbors with energy decisions. It's based on the premise that good information makes good decisions, and also I think the recognition that in any community, a certain percentage, a not insignificant percentage of the greenhouse gas is coming from decisions made or not made by residents. And in our case, summer residents as well as year-round residents. So what we've been doing in this past year is we have continued to meet. We have come up with two focus points looking ahead. One is to continue to try to work with people individually, and we're doing that right now in 7-part series of drop-in sessions at the Snow Library. We've had mixed turnout. On a good day, we have 3 people. On a sunny day, we have no one. People are coming in with questions like, my electric bill is growing astronomically, and I don't know even what these charges are for. And we're able to unpack the charges with them. Some people are choosing to move to community solar based on information that we give them. And I think people in general are leaving with information they didn't have before and knowing that they have options. Another person came in last week saying, my house has not been renovated since 1970, and we want to electrify the house. We don't know where to begin. And we were able to give that person information that we have from the Compact, information from Rewiring America, from sources that are developed specifically for people who are making energy decisions, knowing that that woman coming in with a house from 1970 has a number of decisions, and there's no one prescription. So we'll be able to work with her over the next year or longer in taking care of a problem that she couldn't manage on her own. The drop-in sessions are ending next week. We'll be meeting after that, toward the end of the month, with someone whom John Londa sent to us. This is a person who's a summer resident here, comes from Melrose. He is a climate coach in Melrose, and he's got a lot of wonderful experience with social media. He and I talked about the possibility of doing some PSAs, public service announcements, through the people at the cable TV. That's not what it's called, but at the cable TV in town, letting more people know about Energy Navigators, because we are at our best when we're able to sit down with someone who needs information in order to make good decisions or to plan ahead for when they'll have to make a quick decision. So looking at the help that we're getting from the person from Melrose, which is, by the way, a mass energized community, we're looking ahead. I think we're facing some real challenges. We're a very small group of people, and we have a big task. I think sometimes about getting information out into town a little bit like a train, and the engine's moving really well. This community is making extraordinary progress at the governmental level. The decision about solar panels being the most recent example. But then there's this train, and it's full of people who are residents of this community, and their decisions really impact our situation as well. And we right now don't have capacity to reach those people. So with that in mind, I want to make you aware that we've been talking with Mass Energize. I know that you are talking with Mass Energize, and I also know that the Cape Cod Climate Change Community Collaborative is talking with Mass Energize about doing something regionally, possibly. So I'm hoping that we can pull together Zoom for the week after next. Talked with Tom McNellis about it from Eastham, and I know, John, you were meeting with Tom last week as well. But just to get you more familiar with what a lever for change Mass Energize could be for us if we choose to go in that direction. I think that's probably all I can do in my 5 minutes of an update, but if you have questions, I would be happy to answer them.
So what other Cape towns are participating in Mass Energize?
At this time, I don't know of any that have signed up.
Okay.
I know I meet once a month, sometimes twice a month, with a group from Harwich, Falmouth, Yarmouth. Yarmouth, by the way, is starting their own Energy Navigator team, but they're not calling them Energy Navigators because I didn't think that was a good idea for us to have the same name. So they are Energy Helpers.
What's the matter with them having the same name?
Confusion about websites. We want to, we can talk about it offline,
Okay.
but right now our website is Energy Navigators Cape Cod. I think they may be Energy Helpers. Anyway, so
Okay.
they really like the idea of a navigator type team. I know that at the conference call in January, when Mass Energize presented, there were people from probably a half dozen communities, and I would have to look at that list.
Okay.
Honestly, I think our best resource right now is to talk with the Medfield climate coach with the house in Poche and ask about Melrose's experience with Mass Energize, because he can speak to it from a depth of knowledge that I don't have.
Because John's talked to us a fair amount about it. There's a financial contribution required. I just didn't know. I was trying to get a sense of if other people have gotten on that, bandwagon.
I'll know more on Saturday, and I could tell you more. I know
Okay.
Tom had questions, and so I'd like to schedule this conference call when Tom McNellis can be there, and he's away next week.
Okay.
So,
Jackie, do you have any comments?
No, just supporting everything that Cece's saying. We feel like we've got momentum, we need more bodies.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to sum it up. I mean, personally, there is no doubt in my mind that being an energy navigator is value adding. I don't have any example of the people that I have spoken with who told me, "Hey, you wasted my time. This was ridiculous." But I think that the two challenges of the program, one is to the reach, to let people know that there is a free value-adding service that can be provided to them anytime they want to, with follow-up. And the second challenge is to find volunteers, because it is hard to get people to mobilize them to regularly give a couple of hours of their schedule once a week or even more. It gives an even higher burden on those that are even more dedicated, like yourself, because when there's no volunteer, you automatically take that spot. So those are the two challenges. I think personally that if Mass Energize has levers that may help assist on one of those challenges, or maybe both, that it would be a useful information to get.
yes.
So I personally think it's a good idea to have this conference call or Zoom call with Mass Energize.
Yes.
From what I recall, I don't think it was the money that was pushed back. I think it was just being able to honestly think that it is a service that brings contribution, adds value to the town,
Yes.
even if it was like something like $1,000 or $1,500, something that would be very easy for our committee to support. So my personal view is that, yeah, if there can be a Zoom call arranged, particularly if Eastham can participates to make it more efficient, that would be a great idea. If they can provide something that we cannot, then it's definitely worth listening to. If we find out that it's pretty much something that we could do ourselves, then it'd be harder to defend. That's my personal view.
Hakeem, you've said a few times that the money is not much. On the other hand, Energy Navigators has no money.
I understand. This is why.
For this committee to get money for anything, we don't have a track record, we don't have a pathway. We could go and ask for something, we'd have to
Exactly.
work with
Exactly.
Mark. But $1,000 strikes me as a relatively large amount for the kind of thing that we have access to, the kind of resources that we are likely to have access to. So, the first question is this something that's worth our doing? I agree.
Yeah.
But then we still have to figure out where the money comes from.
Who runs it? Who runs the organization?
Mass Energize.
Yeah,
I know
it is
who-
an organization. I
Right.
think they have some money, maybe from Mass Save. It's a good question, I can find out.
I mean,
They're new.
again, I'm looking for evidence of sort of how they help. We Cape Light Compact does a lot, got Energy Navigators.
The difference that I see is that Mass Energized is designed to support town-specific efforts, to reach out to that large group of people who are sitting on the sidelines right now in terms of making decisions that will reduce our greenhouse gas production. So they provide templates, materials, a lot of the work that we've been cobbling together ourselves on a very limited level, they provide in an ongoing way.
Right, but it's not the materials that's our issue, it's getting people to pay attention. We've got decent enough materials to engage people, so.
But it's getting those people to the table. It's
Yeah,
getting those
yeah.
people to,
Right.
and this is what they're good at, it's social media.
Right. Well, I guess,
Well,
I want to know, I want to see how good they are at it before.
to be fair to Cece, maybe all of those questions
Yep.
need to be asked whenever we have that Zoom call
Yeah.
with
Yes.
Mass Energized, because they're the ones that have to sell their services, and I
Yeah.
totally agree with Roger, we don't have any money. There's 8 of us, I don't know if any one of us wants to contribute $125 each. So, but the reason that it has to be convincing is that we will have in turn to convince the assistant town manager and the town that it's a proper use of the town money.
Yeah.
And that you'll get the return on your investment.
Right.
You have every reason to expect that.
Exactly, whether it's a tangible or intangible return, like I said, if it's a way to achieve things that we cannot do on our own, if it's a way to partly alleviate the work that the volunteers, capital V, do for the navigators versus the volunteers, small v, like myself, who is only available when time allows. So if it's something that can lower that burden, then at least it makes it easier to defend, because like I said, there is no question that the navigators bring a service to the community.
And you said you were in communication with Eastham about this as well, because I'm on their website right now, and it does say, it doesn't have to be a single town, it could be a group. And there's also some, like, Boston isn't part of Mass Energized, but there's some neighborhoods within Boston that are. So, and I could see a New Orleans Eastham collaboration also being, if this were something we ultimately were interested in, we could do it that way, so. I think the Zoom call is an appropriate way to suss some of this out.
Find out more, yeah.
So can we get the guy from Melrose and the Mass Energized people on the same call, so,
Well, the guy from Melrose is here in Poche,
no, I know.
so, but possibly.
Yeah.
The other thing that I know we need to do is to bring together the current Energy Navigators with the guy from Melrose, who is an experienced climate coach, and talk about his experience. So we've got some work that we can get done in June before everybody really needs to relax and enjoy the summer. So,
Well, that's great. Anything else on this agenda item? Well, thank you very much, CC.
thank you for your time.
And
It's
I'll
good
move
to
on
see
to, good to see you. I'll move on to the update from the Assistant Town Manager. Mr. Assistant Town Manager, the floor is yours. Good to see you.
Good evening. Sorry I can't be with you today. I'm at a meeting in P-Town, so I decided not to drive all the way to Orleans, makes sense. Couple of projects updates for you. The 3 EV charging station projects are farther along than we've ever seen, right? We've got, the hardware is installed at Depot Square for the level 3 DC fast chargers. We are just simply waiting for Eversource to energize those, and then we'll have them ready to go. We just need the software to be installed. And so that's really positive. And then the underground infrastructure at Nauset and at 139 Main Street is complete. You'll see at 139, you'll see the bollards are in place, and that's where the location of each of the chargers will be. They will be installing those chargers shortly. Still waiting for the placement of the pole. If you remember, the pole was placed in the wrong place. I was told, I think 3 times now, that the pole will be placed next week. This is the 3rd week that next week came and went. So, don't understand why they bother giving a date or timeline if they don't plan to keep it. But we'll be on Eversource as we have been the whole time. So that's good, we're making progress. On the solar projects, we met last week with the solar developer and the water treatment plant expansion consultants to make sure that the projects are aligned with expansion not interfering with the PV installation and how the electricity was going to be coming into the building, etc. So just letting you know that that's on track and there doesn't seem to be any issues there. I also met with a consultant from Clifton Larson Allen tax firm on the direct pay. This is for our PV systems, ensuring that we're on track with making sure we've got everything in order to receive up to 50% of the project costs. We've got 35% is kind of a given, and then we're 15% for energy community and 15% for domestic content. There is a 15% deduction because it's a bonded project, so just keep that in mind. And they're estimating about $1.2 million in direct pay back to the town for those projects. So just updating you on that. Our climate action plan, last week we had our staff engagement meeting. Went very well. Staff were very engaged with the consultant, and the consultants were very impressed with the amount of work that we've done in Orleans. The policy that was recently passed by the select board was, very eye-opening to them. They were impressed with that, and they felt that the town government is really on track with all of these different areas related to climate action. So that was really good. And we're moving forward with trying to plan a date for our community engagement day over the summer. So we're thinking probably later in July. It makes sense, just to make sure we have enough time to alert everyone to the engagement event. So that's moving along well. And that's pretty much where we're at. I would just, one thing I'd say to the previous conversation with the Energy Navigators and Mass Energize, it may make sense to continue to engage them and learn about their services. I do think that it also makes sense to think about, once we have our action plan, try to align that with how Mass Energized would be able to help us achieve those actions. So maybe not jumping into a relationship with them right now, but, you know, beginning to have those continued discussions about what types of services they provide, so that when our plan is completed, we can really pinpoint on what they would be able to provide for Orleans. So just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, Mark. Comments? For
Mark, this is Andy. I'm sorry, I just walked in, but I imagine you mentioned the level 2 chargers out at Nauset Beach and the, yeah. I was out at the site with the contractors these last 2 weeks, and they ran into the usual problems they do trying to do those installations, but they got through it all.
Yeah,
Next
they
week,
look great, and, you know, as you know, they're a great contractor. They always, you know, the site always ends up looking great, and looking forward to having them up and running ASAP.
yeah, I think you said next Tuesday they're gonna put the actual charger pedestals, cables and all that, and then it's in Eversource's hands after that, which there's no prediction on when they'll actually get energized, but all the infrastructure's there. We just, whenever it comes up next on the Eversource list, so hopefully before the 4th of July.
Let's hope.
Yeah, that was one of my questions, Mark. I mean, Eversource, they're pretty much local, so they're aware of the importance of the high season. So are they understanding that there is this deadline, that it would really be great if it could be met? Or is it just one of the projects they're working on, they'll get to it when they get to it?
It's just another project in their pipeline. That's
Yeah.
simply how they operate. And if something comes up that's emergent, they're on that, and the list waits. So that's really, you know, we can beg and plead with them all we want, but
Yeah.
it's a utility, and they operate in a certain way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Quick question on
But you know this, but I am talking to them weekly,
Yeah.
at least once a week. So it's not that I haven't reached out to them.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt that the town is doing everything they can. It's just they're sponsoring this project, and we're pretty much in their hands. So,
Right.
quick question on the direct pay from I guess the state or the federal government. When do we get it? When the project is complete, or when we reach a certain milestone? Or?
Once the project is complete, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And of
And we're
course,
safe harbored, so we had put a deposit down to start the project ahead of the deadline last year, so everything is in line.
great.
I would also add that I had a conversation with them about ground source heat pumps. It's one of the last components that survived through the big, beautiful bill cuts, right? And so we're also discussing with them, as we're continuing to develop the fire rescue station, there's potential to have that 50% direct pay incentive applied to that project as well. So it also prompted me to think more about ground source heat pumps for residential folks as well. That incentive exists still for residential. And I've been talking with KLA, our consultants for the climate action plan, just thinking about, it's, you know, not just pushing folks to consider air source heat pumps, but also to consider ground source, because of these incentives, and coupling those with the Mass Save incentives. You know, it could be really attractive, and it is a more stable source of heating and cooling versus air source in those especially cold times. So something for you all to think about as well. We can continue to talk about it going forward.
And a very quick question on the Mass Energize. I understand the point you're making, that, you know, it'd be good if it's consistent with the recommendations from the Climate Action Plan when it's ready. So if we have a Zoom call with them next week, what timing do you envisage for getting those guidelines from the CAP?
The plan is scheduled to be completed by December.
Okay. Any more questions for the assistant town? John, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have any questions for the assistant town manager?
You're muted, John.
We can't hear you, John.
I'm sure it's a good question, but we can't hear it.
You can't hear me?
John, you're muted?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Doesn't look like he's even muted.
No.
I'm sure he hears us.
There must be an audio issue on his end.
Uh-oh,
Yeah.
we're muted. Okay, sorry, John, maybe the issue is at our end, so,
No.
no.
It's at his end.
It's at your
Yeah.
end? Okay,
Hakeem, I'm gonna have to leave.
okay, thank you, Roger. Well, I'm sorry, John, you'll have to send your question to Mark in writing, because we cannot hear it.
Send me an email.
And it's getting scary because you're coming up on the agenda. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Thank you, Mark. All right, next item on the agenda would be update from OCAN. I do not see Tessa. She has in the past miraculously appeared just when her agenda item was coming up, but maybe that magic is not working today.
Doesn't seem it.
So maybe I'll postpone that agenda item, which takes us to the chair's report. So, I don't know if John is still on the line.
It looks like he logged off, he's gonna try to log back on.
Oh, okay, so maybe let's see. He also was gonna be discussing the energy.
Here he comes.
There we go, maybe. Don't know if we can have. Are you there, John?
Doesn't look like we can hear you.
Can you hear us? You're right, maybe John cannot hear us.
John, can you try to come in on your phone?
Doesn't sound like he's hearing us.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe he's still
Yeah.
logging in. No? Can you hear us? No. Can you see us?
I can text him.
Okay. I think I could read his lips, it said no.
I often have to dial in my phone.
All right, well, while you try, I will read his report as it was sent to us. And maybe, John, if you can hear us, just jump in at any time. So, last week on June 4th, the chair attended the ECCCI biannual meeting, which is a group to which every town in the Cape participates, and it also has Cape Life Compact and other state organizations to contribute. So his feedback from Cape Life Compact was from Margaret Song. John, still nothing? No. And Margaret Song was reporting that there is a proposal from the State House to reduce or cut Mass Save program by $1 billion. So it's not a done deal yet, but this is something, of course, that will have repercussions on just about everything that we try to do, because we rely significantly on Mass Save.
I have something to add on that.
Yes,
Because
Yeah.
from Margaret Song yesterday at the Cape Light Compact Board meeting,
yes,
she said that the Senate side,
State Senate.
the state Senate side, which would also come up with their own bill, is likely not to have that kind of massive cut. They're much more supportive of energy efficiency. And there's also a possibility that no bill will get through the legislature this year for a reduction. So
Okay. Well, that's good. That would be,
that would be better.
that would be much better. So we'll have to see as things develop on the political side on that, but at least we know the worst-case scenario. From the Yarmouth Sustainability Manager, there was a report that they did get a one-time adjustment to their net metering, in essence correcting the credits on their municipal accounts, because maybe this happens to Orleans also. We collect some net metering credits, but they're not really allocated to where they're needed, so they may just expire or not be used while we continue to pay with hard money for some of the accounts. So at least Yarmouth had, with the support of their sustainability manager, the ability to correct some of that, which was interesting. And the chair noted that that was one of the projects that our previous part-time sustainability manager, Kim Grant, was working on, but she hadn't completed it, to my recollection. So it's still...
Can I speak to that?
Yes, please, Mark, please.
No, it's called a Schedule Z, and we make adjustments to that over time. So Kim did work on that. She actually worked with myself and with Ron Collins. We made a couple of adjustments over the time that she was here, and we'll continue to do that going forward.
Okay, okay, that's good. It would be great to make sure that all of those solar investments do contribute to lowering the...
Yeah, and the credits don't expire. You find sometimes that they accumulate on an account, and you'll just make an adjustment to reduce the percentage of our allocation to those accounts, and maybe add some additional to another account that are definitely going to be using them, and then you can adjust over time. So right now, we're in a good spot.
Okay. So it's really just the timing as to when we recover those savings. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. 5C reported that they're working on municipal report cards on a climate action plan execution. I don't have much detail on that, but at least we know that that work will be ongoing. Maybe we'll get more details as it develops. They're also working on, interestingly, on a net zero conference in the fall. So that would be interesting to track as well, so that if there is opportunity to join by Zoom or in person, we can learn from that. Good news for Orleans. We may receive the Charging Smart Bronze designation. I hope that's not dependent on the project from Eversource.
It's not.
That's good. Otherwise, I would question the timing. But the chair notes that when and as that happens, that would be a good information to share with our Chief Information Officer for due credit. A reminder also during the conference that the power landscape equipment is supported by mass save incentives. So we all know the benefits of that. Not only does it cut on the pollution, it's horrible when we walk by one of those landscapers using those gas blowers or whatever. It's just, the smell is horrible, let alone the noise. So that would be a good reminder for everybody, especially while those incentives last. And then last point, which I will cover also separately, but the chair attended the Downtown Town Cove Resiliency Project with our consultant, Dodson and Flinker. They had events scheduled for June 5th and June 6th, and the chair attended the June 5 event. He noted during their presentation that the projections based on their models for sea level rise are about 1.2 inches by 2030, 2.5 inches by 2050, and 4.3, I'm talking feet. 1.2 feet by 2030, 2.5 feet by 2050, and 4.3 feet by 2070. Some of those maps, I presume some of you have seen them, they really look pretty ugly. So it's interesting that they have these models at least to give us heads up about what to expect with the sea level rise. They also, during that presentation, provided some ideas on making connections, physical connections, whether it's bike trails or other pedestrian paths to link the downtown with the Town Cove area. So I don't know if the chairman is back with us, if he can hear us or speak to us. Guess not. He can hear us at least, but none of us are really good at lips or at reading lips. So we'll have to take it for granted that he didn't yell and shout. I didn't distort what he was trying to convey to us. Right. So any questions about the chair's report? That's good. Thanks. Energy Sustainability Manager recommendation. This is, I guess, a spontaneous and solicited recommendation that our chair thought of and wanted to share with us and see if our committee would support sending a letter. Fundamentally, our chair has concluded that we lost the services of our part-time sustainability manager because that position was a bit awkward. It was shared with several other towns, and secondly, it was dependent on the support of Cape Light Compact, which limited the efficiency of this lady, Kim Grant. But there is no doubt that she was providing support and services to the town and to many of us on their individual projects. So I guess the chair thought that there is a justification for actually the town hiring directly a full-time sustainability manager, and that would add to the staff of the town, so that represents clearly a non-negligible cost. But the opinion of the chair, and we can discuss it here, is that the savings that it would generate by not only identifying areas to reduce the town's energy costs, energy waste, and also determining more projects, having the time and the ability to determine and identify more projects that would be eligible for grants. Other towns that we know of in the Cape have had sustainability managers that definitely more than justified their salary. At least a few years ago. I don't know about the history of the past year or so, since we lost track of that, having our own. But I guess first I'd like to ask our committee their view, and then I'd like to ask the assistant town manager of his opinion as well, since he's with us. David?
I guess I'd like to get right to the assistant town manager's opinion, sort of wearing two hats, as a phenomenal resource in the energy area himself, and his hat as the assistant town manager thinking about, the possibility of funding, $125,000 a year with benefits position, let's say. So,
Right.
I mean, I gathered that with Mark's expertise, I'm not sure how much incremental benefit we got from our 1 day a week arrangement. And from his perspective, is there enough to do for a full-time, one-day-a-week person? I'm not saying, and I was a big advocate of the shared position because I thought it's the only way we could get anything. And I am still an advocate of that. Maybe a better structure, maybe 2 towns, and we get somebody half-time. But, from your point, with your expertise and your thinking of the fiscal side for the town, do we need and do we have a chance of getting that resource?
Yeah, so I was a little surprised to see this on the agenda, but I would say, number one, this is a recommendation to the town manager, because town manager, per the charter, has oversight of personnel decisions, not the select board. So when you're crafting this and when you're sending it, it would be to her. Secondly, I would say what is different from the Orleans situation with me here versus all of the other communities on Cape Cod is that you have administration level folks, myself, who has this experience. And so I haven't had a lot of time to think about this, but my initial thought is full-time is not financially feasible for the position we're going into for next year, especially in terms of budget, but also, I don't see it. I don't see it as necessary. We're doing all the right things right now. We're pushing forward important projects that are related to energy and climate action. And hiring someone to do that doesn't necessarily change our path. We're already doing it. So I think it'd be hard to advocate for a full-time position. Now, I just sat with Margaret at lunch this afternoon, Margaret Song, and we continue to talk about opportunities to work together on maybe finding someone down the road for specific projects. But, for example, Green Communities, Cape Light Compact is paid by Green Communities Program to manage our Green Communities grants and our annual report. So we've already have someone working on that work, right? And we've got projects in place. The facilities conditions assessment is going to clearly lay out a timeline for replacements of projects that relates to Green Communities as well. So we're going to have a roadmap there that I don't think we necessarily need someone else to tell us how to do it. And I understand the concern there, but I'm fairly comfortable with where we are. And so balancing those concerns with the financial considerations of Orleans, I'm not likely to support a full-time role.
Jackie, do you have any comments?
Mark, are you able to hand off any of just sort of administrative tasks like, auditing utility bills or, things that don't require the higher level expertise that you personally bring? Do you have any town staff that you can assign tasks to?
You mean like looking at their utility bills to see if they're higher than normal? Is that?
Yeah, things like, you don't have a full-time assistant, right?
Yeah, we have 2 executive assistants in the town manager's office, yes.
Right. And are they able to take on some of those things that would be unproductive for you to be doing them yourself personally?
There's nothing that I'm doing that they would be able to do.
Okay. But you understand what I'm getting at? If you're
Yeah, no,
if
I'm
you're
doing some things that are administrative. I'm not really doing much in terms of administrative pieces. When it comes to, I guess I'm trying to understand, like, the billing is running through each department. So if a department manager sees their bills, and I think we can think about police being of interest here, where they did have an exorbitant bill situation. They're typically catching those as they're paying their own bills. There's no central deposit of other than the Mass Energy Insight monitoring use in there. But, to pay someone full-time to scroll through Mass Energy Insight, I'm not sure makes sense either, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, thanks a lot for clarifying that, the letter should be addressed to the town manager rather than the select board. This would have been a major snafu, to give the impression that we're trying to go around the town manager.
Well, before, when I was a town administrator, that would have been, an appropriate suggestion, but things have changed in the charter, so just wanted you to be aware of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's clear to me that if the assistant town manager does not support this suggestion, it's not going to go very far. But to follow up on the question that Andy asked, is there sufficient town resources to fully try to identify projects that would be eligible for green community grants? Because we were in the past, before you were on board, we were talking with DPW, and we just, we basically, the message we got is, hey, I'm just going from fire to fire. Don't ask me to look for project, especially at that time. We had funds sitting there just waiting to be used. So there was quite a bit of frustration in this committee that there was just nobody that had, A, the time to spend on this, and B, the ability to know what's available and could be eligible for a grant. Now, I guess we're fortunate because you have both of those, well, at least you know which project would be eligible based on your background. The question is, do you have enough time, especially, with the fires that happen sometimes. I'm not just talking about the town meetings that all of a sudden is a huge peak of work for everybody working for the town, but just managing other projects to allocate to identifying grant eligible projects the time that it may require, because otherwise it's just money we're giving away to other towns.
Yeah, backing up to that facilities conditions assessment and the capital plan that is going to be developed from that, I can easily identify projects that will be applicable to green communities just based on that. We also have pipeline projects now that have been in the pipeline for some time that weren't done. So for example, this year doing the Council on Aging electrification project for their HVAC system in the dining room area, that project was funded by town dollars, and I said, wait a minute, this is a perfect project for green communities. So when we're going through the budget process and I'm involved with capital planning, when a project comes forward and is asking for money without looking at green communities, that's where I get involved. So it doesn't take a lot of time on my end, and you're gonna find that if you put someone in a position where they're not in administration level role, trying to interject in the capital plan process and inform folks of a grant or what have you, it's less likely to get to the place it needs to get to, right? So I'm not worried about that. I'm constantly looking for ways we can fund these types of green communities projects with green communities dollars. It's just that we are behind the ball, right? Because there were years of not taking advantage of the competitive grants. So I'm really looking forward to having clarity on the conditions of our HVAC systems so that we can think ahead about when we're going to apply for those green community grants in collaboration with Cape Lake Compact.
I think that's the difference, is that 4 or 5 years ago, just trying to squeeze in with Ron Collins' time, we weren't getting any of the time we needed. But now, you've got, and is RISE doing that, facilities conditions? So
No, we have our own firm, Bureau Veritas, that is doing the assessment.
Right. So between what they're doing, going around to every building, I think we're in a much better space to queue up projects than we ever were. So it seems like, but isn't RISE doing something as well?
RISE is the contractor for, that is through Cape Light Compact. So they do the installation work. They're the ones that do the analysis on the return on investment for the Green
Okay.
Communities applications.
Okay.
So they're the ones
I
actually
thought they were
implementing
looking,
the
I
projects.
thought they were looking for projects also at some
They,
level.
they have been, they have been in the past engaging with Ron Collins, and have that's how those projects were identified in the past, yeah.
I think we're in better shape to do that.
So, yeah, I appreciate that. You know, I'm glad that you have the finger on the pulse as far as identifying project. The other side, of course, is filing, you know, twice a year, and that could be quite a time-consuming effort.
Well, that's done by Cape Light Compact, that's why we pay them.
Okay.
Hakeem?
Yes.
Ah,
Yeah, hi.
Welcome.
John speaks.
Welcome, John.
I'm back from the great abyss.
So good to hear your voice.
So I just wanted to comment on a couple things. What prompted my putting this on the agenda is, you know, that report that was mentioned in the chair's report about this one-time ability to transfer net metering credits. That's, like I said, it was from July 1st through the end of this calendar year. And we know that Kim was working on fixing the Schedule Zs on our landfill solar project to get the net metering credits to go to a more productive place. But that didn't really fix the issue of net metering credits being stranded on accounts. So that's what the one-time transfer is about fixing that. But when I thought about that, it's like, okay, that's something that, you know, somebody should be doing that between July 1st and the end of this calendar year for us, for those accounts that had those excess credits built up in them. But we have solar projects that are gonna come along that we're progressing on, particularly the DPW roof project. They're gonna generate a lot of net metering credits, and those all have to be placed appropriately. And that same issue about, well, you know, are we putting too many credits to some location? That will come up again in the future. So having somebody that is at least read in on, you know, what the town is doing with that aspect of energy, I think is something that came to mind as being important. I thought back to the issue with the natural gas problem with the police station, which took us a whole year to find that problem. And this mostly because we didn't have somebody looking, as the assistant town manager mentioned, the departments pay those bills. And so there may not be anybody looking at them from an overview and saying, oh, why did that gas usage suddenly spike like it did? And so it was found, but it was found after a year, only because as we were doing our annual report, we were like, okay, why did the natural gas suddenly go crazy this year? And then lastly, the other piece I would say is there's a behavioral aspect to energy that nobody looks at. It's an important aspect, but settings on thermostats, settings on time clocks. If you ever drove through the center of Orleans at 2 o'clock in the morning, the decorative lights we have are still on at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's a time schedule issue, or maybe it's a control issue that we don't have adequate controls. But those are the kind of things that would be important for us. And that's the kind of thing that, besides all of the grant aspects that, that an energy manager could do for us. So whether or not we can afford that, I don't know, but I think we need some level of support here. Because I know that, you know, the assistant town manager probably has enough time to do all of those kinds of things. So, you know, whether it's full-time, half-time, I would think based upon what we saw, I would say the 1 day a week was not enough.
Yes, sir.
Just respond to John's good points that he's made. So, a couple of things, what I'm thinking about the behavioral side. Absolutely correct, you know, behavioral components of all of our energy and climate-related pieces, it has to come from the administration level. You can't, we've seen people.
Oops.
I don't know.
Now we lost
You know,
this.
the assistant town manager's right. It does have to come from the administration side. But you know, this administration is not gonna be the people that are looking at, well, we have a building that has the ventilation systems running full bore at 11 o'clock at night. You know, somebody's gotta be doing those kinds of checks to make sure, oh, well, the schedule for ventilation at the police station makes sense, or the schedule for lighting for the school parking makes some sense. And that's a person that's just kind of walking around and late at night, you know, once every month and looking for those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope we can get the assistant town manager back, but my feeling is that, you know, he ultimately, you know, this letter would go to him, and we certainly don't have the desire, nor the power, to ask him to have on board an assistant that he doesn't feel he needs. So, but what I was going to suggest is perhaps we wait for the climate action plan when it's available. It is my understanding that the climate action plan is going to be very detailed and very project-oriented. It's not going to be some high-level report. So when we see the outcome of that report, if it identifies a lot of areas where the town may, you know, save energy or, you know, do better as far as climate action, that would exceed the availability of the assistant town manager, then perhaps it'd be a better time to try to recommend this. That's my personal view. But I'd be happy for our committee to take a vote on this letter if you think that we should.
You know, I think it's, you know, we obviously identified that this was an important thing for us in past years. And now that we don't have an energy sustainability manager, I think it's appropriate that we bring up the issue. Whether it said how much support we're able to get financially from the town on this issue, that's going to be determined by the town manager. But it's got to come back to the town at a town meeting in somebody's budget.
Well, my personal view is that the financial issue would only be a matter of discussion if the assistant town manager recognizes that this is a resource that he could use and that he would need. Then at that stage you go and you try to refine the pencils and find the money for it. I don't think we're there. And to be candid, some of the duties that you mentioned, for example, making sure that the net metering credits are allocated appropriately, I'm personally thinking, and I'm thinking out loud here, I'm personally thinking it would be an easy project for artificial intelligence. You know, if you plug into ChatGPT, these are my net metering credits, and these are my current bills, and where I'm negative, you know, you'd get an outcome where you would have an optimum allocation without really having a person doing all of that. So with technology, things may have changed since 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, the net metering thing is more about just having access to the information. And I don't know that AI is going to have access to, you know, what the current state of the electrical count on the police station is. That's, you know, the figuring out where they go, yeah, AI would do a great job with that. But if it could get access to the data.
Well, I mean, if the data is just inputting a spreadsheet, that's an easy task to do, I presume. It's a lot, it's not, it wouldn't require having a part-time sustainability manager. I mean, I'm just looking at both sides here, that if we have sufficient justification to convince the assistant town manager, that's one thing. I'm not sure we're there yet.
Yeah, you know, it would have been nice to hear his response,
Yeah.
just to kind of sense. I said, I think we need this, you know, but I would defer to, you know, financially how much we could support. But I know that if you don't have it, just like the way those net metering credits built up on those, I think it was 2 accounts, it's because you weren't looking at it. Or nobody recognized it and flagged it.
Well,
What?
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what about going back to the idea of sort of splitting the difference between what we had and what you want? Which is, we had 1 day a week, we didn't have as much control over that, may not have necessarily been the right person, but what about the idea of finding one other town and splitting a person? I'm not sure,
Yeah.
Mark's not on, and I'm not sure he would support that either, but it seems, that's always sort of what I thought, you know, we needed versus this 1 day a week thing. I didn't think was gonna be enough,
Yeah, that was-
but it's all we got. So, I was happy to try that. But what
Yeah,
about
I
something
think-
midway?
He's back.
I would say, you know, I
Oh,
don't know
wonderful.
that we got enough from Kim, with 1 day a week.
Well, I personally think, I don't know if Mark can hear us, but I personally think that rather than having prepared this letter, which is a great effort and a good idea, maybe what we need to do is establish a list of all of the things that we wish the town does in order to improve energy efficiency. For example, you know, your net metering idea may be a good one, highlighting that some of the municipal buildings are wasting energy because, et cetera. And, you know, provide that in a list that we give the assistant town manager, and then it'd be up to the assistant town manager to see whether he can find the resources within existing town staff, or if he needs additional support. And then, when and as we get to that level of the assistant town manager saying, yeah, I need some support, then it'd have to be what level of support. Is it part-time, is it full-time, is it? And then at that stage, it'd be a lot easier to try to get the town to approve this. But Mark, I'm glad you're back with us. One thought that I shared while we lost you for a bit was perhaps this, we don't know what the outcome of the climate action plan is going to be. I remember it was supposed to be very project-driven. So when and as we find out that there is a long list of projects that may have been overlooked that would help with the energy situation of the town, and we find out that the town doesn't have sufficient resources, maybe that would be a good time to revisit this issue.
Yeah, sorry I dropped off, my laptop died, and then I couldn't find, my phone wouldn't connect right, and so I guess tonight's just the night of technology issues, but, yes, Hakeem, it is gonna be helpful to look at the actions that are suggested from the action plan. What I was saying before I dropped off was referring to the behavioral changes and components to how we operate. And one thing that we've been working on and are coming closer to completing is an operational management strategy for the entire town and how we operate. And there's an entire section on climate and energy-related operational goals. And so a lot of that mirrors what the select board policy kind of touches on. So we're working at an administrative level to change the way we behave and operate as town government. And what I was saying earlier was many times communities, towns, municipalities hire sustainability managers and then they place them in, you know, planning and community development, or in a place that they're not in a position to make changes to the organization's behavior. And when I was in Plymouth, I was in the town manager's office because folks understood there that when they pushed for that position, that it needed to be in the manager's office to be able to have a seat at the table to inform the manager of those climate and energy related matters. And so we are working now to change behaviors in the municipal government space from the administrative level. And that's really going to be about training staff and making sure staff are aware of, even these little, the little things that add up, as John mentioned. The timers, the controls in all of our buildings, it's something that so many municipalities deal with. And we need to be training our staff and make them understand that this is the direction we're going and this is how we're gonna operate. On the Schedule Z side, I know, John, I'm not sure if you heard earlier, but Kim did complete that project with us, with Ron and myself. And we're going to continue to monitor that because there's always shifts and adjustments in how we allocate those credits. There are a few accounts that have excess credits that their percentage was reduced to allow them to use up those credits. So, we're focused on making sure that, especially once the solar PV systems are in place, that's going to completely shift a lot of those credits around. So, we have access to the allocations right now, and we'll continue to monitor those. And there was a third thing that you had mentioned, John, but I can't recall.
Well, there was
Behavioral, Schedule Zs.
and the lights, the police station having had an excessive gas bill for a long time until it was detected.
Right. And I think that comes into the training and behavioral components too, right? Like, the folks who are paying the bills in each department, understanding, getting them to understand and think more about, does this seem like an anomaly for your norm? It was last month, somehow drastically less than this month, and let's raise the flag. What's the procedure in that situation? So, that's what we can work towards. But I do like the idea of the committee coming up with this list, right? To really just provide to me so that we can make sure we're continuing to focus on those items.
Yeah. Well, one of the thoughts that came to me, and I shared it while you dropped off, was I'm sure that as the town is revisiting its operating strategy, that they will use more and more tools like artificial intelligence, because I would imagine that just talking about the police station gas bill, if that was data that was not systematically, but always input into a system, the system could immediately detect those anomalies. And perhaps even if there is an excessive electricity bill from, let's say, the elementary school compared to the square footage or whatever, maybe that it will detect that, hey, maybe there's excessive electricity use here. So I don't know. I'm sure that the town is envisaging, using more and more of those tools to benefit from the technology.
There's a section in the operational management plan that discusses artificial intelligence and the use of it and how we train staff and how we're using it. And so, yes, absolutely. We're even talking about right now moving away from our current ERP, which has been Munis for 30 plus years, to OpenGov, which has a AI component, and it's much more simplistic to utilize, and staff don't need to be accountants to be able to navigate it. So that's, it's so important that staff know how to use the technology that we have, and that's not the case today. And so as staff are more capable of utilizing our technologies, it'll be easier for them to catch things like what happened at police station, right? Like the bills just go into an abyss with Munis, and this way there may be an opportunity for them to be able to be more on top of understanding their bigger picture budget situation and raise those red flags earlier.
Yeah, and free the time to do more efficient tasks. So, John, I certainly don't want to ignore your letter, so if there is a motion and a second, we can vote on it. If you prefer, we can table it.
Yeah, let me just comment on it. I think, I went back and reread this, and I kind of think, some of my points got lost. I think we could do better on a letter on this, so I think we ought to table that for now, and, work on, maybe redefining just a series of tasks, and suggest that the town look at, how they could utilize some help to be able to tackle these tasks.
Yep. Well, and I give you credit for it.
May I add to something there? I'll be the first one to tell you when I want some help with this.
Yeah,
So don't you worry about that.
I kind of figured so. But I wanted to say, I think, I recognize, John, that you did a great effort at not only identifying already some low-hanging fruits here, ideas, but just highlighting that perhaps our committee should be more proactive in trying to identify areas that we can submit to the assistant town manager for energy improvement. Thank you. All right, if nothing more on this, I will switch to the next agenda item, which is the comments on the draft environmental policy from the select board. And before I discuss, did I understand from the assistant town manager that the select board already adopted this environmental policy, or was it? Okay. So these comments are a bit late.
Policy was adopted already. They're making some changes to what you probably see as section 11, which is the herbicide, pesticide, fertilizer policy.
Yeah.
That section was discussed at the last meeting, and the recommendation from the board was to eliminate that entire section and replace it with the home rule petition special legislation that's been filed on herbicide, pesticide, and fertilizer. So it eliminates the complexities of that language that you see about how tall to cut the lawn and all the turf, et cetera, and just focus on the bigger picture components of fertilizer, pesticides, and herbicides.
Okay. Well, I have to admit personally that last month, I was distracted by some health issues. I didn't have the chance to read this policy, but I just read it in preparation for this meeting, and maybe it's too late, but my only comments was that there were a couple of sections, like 11.7, the severability, and maybe another section that could have been like blanket sections, almost part of, item 12, because it would apply equally to section 8, 9, or 5, or whatever, not only to section 11. There was another one that I thought could also be a blanket policy. Yeah, like 10.5, it says, please direct questions to the town manager's office. That's also, to me, like a blanket statement, so maybe those would...
It's already been changed.
Okay, well, I'm glad. Great minds, I appreciate it. So those would have been my edits. Otherwise, I guess maybe it's a bit too late to review then the potential input that our chairman was offering in the letter. Again, that should be to the town manager and not the select board, I presume.
Well, that's policy, so that would be to the select board.
Oh, okay, sorry. So when it's policy, it's select board, and when it's really
personnel, it's to the town manager.
When it's money spending, then we have to go through the purse holders. All right. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to.
Well, I would say, this item is on the agenda next week.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so let's discuss it.
Comments.
Okay, if there's still.
It's kind of timed perfectly.
Okay, so if there's still an opportunity to have input, well, John, you had the opportunity to stay silent, but you spoke up, so I'm going to let you cover this.
Sure, thanks. Overall, this is, I think, a fabulous document. The I only had a couple of comments on things, under chapter 6. I just wanted to be able to let the select board know that we are looking at this passive house issue. We're not ready to bring that forward at this point, but they should just know that we are thinking about this, and I think this is something that, we would probably come back at a later date on, if that's what made sense. But the big thing on passive house, I think, for the most part, is figuring out whether or not, affordable housing trust would be willing to be on board for something like that. And I am trying to get a meeting with, I think it's the Community Partnership Program and the project that they have up at Wellfleet, to see if we can get a tour and see if we can pull some of the affordable house members, trust members, along to kind of see what this would look like, just to kind of make the case that, hey, look, this is feasible. Here's an example, and probably try to pry some of the cost data out of them about, well, what did this additionally cost you to do, and what are the benefits? So that's mentioned. I think at the last meeting I mentioned that the term specialized stretch code in my mind is confusing. So in the letter I just put down the formal title from the CMR, and I think that just would make it clearer. Under chapter 7, I was thinking about how we're in our, so at least our third year of drought, and that, we need to try to be capturing as much water as we can coming off any hardscapes and getting it down into the aquifer. And, while many of the systems, such as roof systems, are going to be just built into the building code and be taken care of, but some of the hardscapes might not be. But it's just something that I think that we need to be thinking about all the time about, or how that we don't really want water, rainwater, runoff going directly into any of the salt water bodies. If we can keep it in fresh water, that's the way to go. So this is a little put in there just to utilize water management structures in a new construction and renovations to allow hardscape runoff to be slowed to allow aquifer recharge. And I'm sure we're doing that as much as we can, but I thought that would be a good statement to add in the water conservation. Under chapter 9, which was the zero emission vehicle policy, I think I didn't see this anywhere else, and it may be that it already exists, but we probably need to have a idle policy for town vehicles, so that the town staff are just attuned that, hey, look, my vehicle's going to be sitting here and it's not going anywhere, that if it can be shut off, it will be shut off. Not particularly for all your fossil fuel vehicles. And then there was a recommendation on some policy language for that idle policy. I also mentioned about grounds care equipment. I know we've taken an initial step on grounds care equipment, but we should continue to look at how we can incorporate battery operated equipment into our equipment listing, so that if we're doing leaf blowing, that we're using battery operated equipment. It does mean some thought into, okay, well, what's the runtime? Am I using the leaf blower all day? Do I need multiple batteries? But nonetheless, that's I think something that could go into a landscape policy. And so the last comment was, the native planting policy, could go into a larger view of landscape policy. we might look at expanding that to include some of these other issues about how we care for town grounds. And that's it.
Well, any comments here to the letter? No? My personal comments, I guess, on item 3, chapter 9, I had to scratch my head a little bit to figure out, well, how many town-operated vehicles are really running on fossil fuels and staying idle. The only example I could think of really was the school buses, when they stop and they drop off kids. Other than that, I mean, typically, either it's electric vehicles or it's the DPW pickup trucks that run around, and I don't see them usually kind of leaving their car idle. So is that what it's supposed to cover, John?
Yeah, I think school buses, I know idle policy in school buses, usually those things are really tight. And school bus drivers, if they're gonna be just standing and idling, they shut their vehicle off. But it's more, I think, just the random, work crew that's out and has a vehicle that they just should be thinking, okay, I'm parking the vehicle and getting out. And, and obviously if we, police vehicles and other rules that have to run, they need to run, they just need to run. But it's just getting everybody tuned to it. And like I said, I didn't know if we had that policy somewhere else, but it's something we need if it's not in another format or another
I believe it's,
doc.
I'm almost certain it's also state law that you can receive a fine from what I remember for more than 5 minute idle. And there's like a school zone limits even as well, so, but it's a behavioral thing too, right? And referring to state law as a reason to institute the policy makes sense.
Okay, so it doesn't hurt. Correct my ignorance, but item 4, is that already not the case that all of the landscape equipment is to be electric, or is this something that needs to be changed? I'm asking Mark, I guess.
We currently have a mixture of electric equipment and gas power.
Oh, okay, so it'd be good to have all electric, of course, yeah.
Should there
Yeah,
be
I think
language
that
like to
what we
phase it
did
out?
with, sorry.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but should there be language in here that the effort is to phase it out as new equipment is purchased?
I think so. I think that it makes sense to do something along those lines. I'd like to work closely with DPW and phasing that out and get a better understanding of how the equipment has worked for them. Because I think a big part of getting that electric lawn equipment was to have staff begin to utilize it and get the feel for it. And we bought a whole bunch of batteries so that, they run out, they have one ready to go. So, part of that is just connecting with DPW staff and coming up with a solution that makes sense going forward and eliminating the gas-powered stuff.
Okay.
I would love to hear the people who use it and their thoughts on it, because this policy seems to me one that could really, you could get the public behind that big time and get people to insist their neighbors also have a battery-powered lawn tool. So that seems like one that could instigate a lot of policy change town-wide.
Yeah, there's been discussion starting on, a town bylaw that restricts the use. And I do think that we need to lead by example there and make sure we can do that before we then institute a bylaw or bring a bylaw to town meeting. So something we can work on for sure.
Yeah. Well, so I thought it was, maybe we can vote on this letter so that we can submit it. I believe there was some edits actually that we got from Jackie.
Not substantial content edits, just spelling and.
Yeah. So John, did you have any Objections to the edits that Jackie distributed earlier today? To your letter, if you had a chance to see them?
No, I don't.
Okay,
No, no, there's definitely some things that went astray on that. But, yeah, we should be able to make the edits and just get it to them so they have some input from us.
yeah. I don't know if I can make the motion myself, but if I can have a motion that we send this letter to the select board, at least as edited by Jackie and distributed earlier today.
Yep, I'll make the motion to
Second?
submit the document.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? So can we have a roll call vote, I guess, because one of our core members is on the line? John, you want to give your vote?
John Londa, aye.
Andy O'Neill, aye.
David Jacobson, aye.
Hakeem Jana, aye.
Jackie Mitchell, aye.
Okay, so unanimous, so I guess this letter will go, and thanks very much for all of your input. John, very much.
If you could, sorry, if you could just send that tomorrow
Okay,
before like 2,
okay,
because it will go in the packet, and the select board will see it in the packet.
okay.
So that'll be helpful for them, because they're having a workshop meeting next week, and this is one of the topics.
So is it just a matter of email? I'm sorry, we've been spoiled because John has always been taking care of that. Is it just a matter of emailing it to Molly?
Email it to me and Molly, yep,
Okay,
yep,
will do. Thank you.
thank you.
Just accept Jackie's
Okay,
changes.
are you gonna be able to, can you take care of that?
Yes, I'll take care of that
Thanks.
this time. All right, thank you. So then we can move on to agenda item 9, which is the goals. Any updates on the committee goals at all? John, let me start by you.
Yeah, so on item, goal 1, I did meet, or let's put it this way, I stopped in with Community Development Partner Program, and we're talking about, trying to identify a date to do kind of some information on the Wellfleet passive house project. So more to follow, but they seem to be willing to do something, and we'll try to craft that so that we get our aspect covered, but also look to see to make we get affordable housing trust involved as well.
Yeah. Well, I personally really support this effort for at least having one model passive house in a municipal building so that at least people can see, well, first of all, get an assessment that it's not that much more expensive, and B, see what it's really, what kind of effort it involves. I mean, we didn't have David Ebel with us today, but he's a strong supporter as well, so it's good to see that progressing. Any other goal updates? Andy? No.
No.
Well, on goal 7, resilience, I just wanted to add to the comments that the chair did on the meeting about the Town Cove Resiliency initiative that's supported by a grant. And there was a meeting on June 5th, followed by a charrette on June 6th. So the charrette was quite successful, actually. There was maybe 36 people or so participate, and of course the consultant, Dodson and Flinker. And there was a focus on 4 key avenues to pursue. One was Station A, building connections, which basically meant physically how can we link bike routes with the main street, or in order to minimize the need for vehicle movement in the downtown area. It could include bike trails, pedestrian trails, etc. Station B was the resilience scenario planning, and fundamentally what that meant was and John mentioned it a little bit. How do we cope with the inevitable sea level rise between now and year 2070? And there were basically three strategies. One is to protect, which basically means building barriers. The second is accommodate, which basically means elevating all of these buildings so that they can sustain higher sea levels. And the third is relocate, which basically give up that land and move everything away. So, sorry.
A planned retreat.
Exactly, like a total retreat, defeat. Those three strategies were discussed as to their costs, their merits, their longevity. So I thought that was an interesting conversation. Station C was covering the stormwater drainage projects. So fundamentally, making sure that the stormwater is properly evacuated so that it minimizes the pollution to the bay, and integrating existing stormwater drainage systems with improvements that would basically account for future stormwater increases, basically. So that was also an interesting engineering type station. And the fourth one was vision, 2050 vision for the town of Orleans, basically brainstorming everybody in the audience. How do you see your town 25 years from now? How do you see it evolving, etc.? So that one was a little more interesting as to people's imaginations. But those were the four stations that were discussed, and there will be a report, of course, that will be made public when and as that information is available. I'll make sure that I share it with the committee.
Thinking the Orleans Town podcast, I think it's called Orleans Behind the Scenes. Not the current issue, the one before was on your visioning meeting with, they interviewed the consultants on this
Yes.
project. So you can go to the town podcast and listen to that if you want.
Yeah, get additional information. These are pretty good consultants, and they clearly are trying to make the town benefit as much as possible from this grant. And one of the questions that I asked them, actually, I'm glad to bring that up. I said, Town Cove is a very limited area. Is there any way that we can use the conclusions to other similar situations in the town? And they said yes, that was one of their plans, that they want to make sure that their conclusions are as applicable to similar situations as possible. So that would maximize the benefits of that report, which I think should be available sometime mid-next year.
It's interesting, they talked on the podcast, I listened to it, about the problem with phragmites that are growing all around the perimeter. And I've done battle with them myself, and it's an indestructible plant. It's almost impossible to kill it. You can pull them up, you can spray them with Roundup all you want, and they just spring back up out of the ground.
Yeah.
And the story was they were originally brought over in revolutionary times to use for thatched roofs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're an invasive species, essentially. They came from the
Yeah.
UK. And those stalks have like a serration to them. If you grab them and try to pull them out, you're just gonna shred the palm of your hand.
Ooh,
And that's why I say they're the nastiest
They're
things.
unbeatable, yeah.
unbeatable.
They always win.
Yeah, exactly. We have, not to digress, before we moved to the Cape, we had a horrendous phragmite problem. And we actually got the permits from the state to eradicate them. You have to hire a special contractor that has the permits to use the herbicides on them. And so they cut them all down, then they poison them all with a commercial version of Roundup, what's that called? Rodeo. And then they have to come back every year because they just keep sprouting again. And once you do that, you kind of keep them under control. The moment you stop doing that, they just come all back. Yeah.
Vinegar doesn't help?
No. So they have this massive underground connected root network. So everything
Yeah,
you're doing
they're
above
fine.
ground is just treating the symptom, not the disease. So
Wow.
Well, I have some weeds in my driveway
Yeah.
that act that way as well, so I know what you mean. Right, so liaison reports. Anybody has any update on liaison reports?
one minor one, so the planning board submitted the comprehensive plan to the Cape Cod Commission for approval. And what the significance of that is the Cape Cod Commission has to approve it, which is a bit of a formality. But then once that happens, then you're eligible for grants from the state that are contingent upon having this comprehensive plan.
And
So
support, yeah.
that was like a key milestone. They had the meeting this week. I don't know if they got instant approval or not, but it's coming, so.
That's good. So maybe some of the elements, some of the recommendations of the comp plan will be eligible.
Yes, yeah.
That's
I
good.
mean, it's good to have the comp plan just for your own internal purposes,
Yeah.
but the bigger goal is get state funding, so,
Yeah. While it lasts.
yeah.
Right. Great. Any other liaison report? No?
I mean, the fire station is
Yes.
just, they're going into more serious design phase now that they got the
The money.
financial approval, and I suspect it'll be another month or two before we hear anything. And once they do the sort of layout, then they're gonna get into the mechanical systems. And I do think, especially given what Mark said, that they're gonna look more seriously into geothermal. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as I recall from the town meeting, there was this impression that $50 million was like a maximum. Do you see them, is it like now a fixed number, or is there still hope that maybe the final
it was 50,
Cost.
55.
55?
55, no, that's
That's,
it.
that's now in the pocket,
That's
okay.
it. I don't think they're gonna get
They're
any
not giving any
more.
money back just yet.
That's right.
We're gonna try to get money from renewables from other sources, like our solar allocation that we have already. So that doesn't count against the project.
Yeah.
Because we only used, I think, 3.5 million out of the 5 million that the town approved. So it's,
So are you saying that additional 1.5 million might still go on top of the 55 million?
or it might offset the 55 million. I don't,
Oh, I see what you mean.
yeah.
So the total may end up being 53.5 because there was $1.5 million left that would still be eligible for the solar investment.
Yeah. Or the more pessimistic scenario, like you say, is that the building goes over, and the first thing they want to cut is the PV. So if we have other money available,
We can save that.
we can keep that.
Yeah.
If the
Yeah.
so. They were very, in my opinion, they're optimistic on the costs of going net zero. They said the incremental costs were only 800,000. And that, given how much PV panel they had, that number didn't quite make sense, so we'll see.
And just, if you can remind us, when is the date that it's supposed to be completed? In a year and a half or so? I don't remember.
I forget.
You mean the final design or the actual construction?
The actual construction, when can they move into the new
Oh, that's
building?
like at least 3 years out,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay.
That sound right.
Yeah, that's probably right, yeah. The reason I ask is that the longer it takes, the more the opportunity for cost overruns.
For sure. And for materials to be more expensive.
That's right, for the price tag to get
I don't know if
higher.
anyone saw the Chatham Upweller project.
Yeah.
The prices are like double
Yeah.
what the town thought they were, and they're actually using the same construction manager that we're having, Pomeroy Associates, to manage it, but everything just costs a lot more, and they only got one bid for
Wow.
both aspects of the project.
And to be honest, I voted yes, and that was the main reason, because somebody was saying, let's postpone it. But if you postpone it,
Yeah.
even a few years, it's gonna be double.
Yeah.
So let's get it over with, and, yeah. All right, can I get a motion to discuss and vote on the minutes of the May 14 meeting?
I read the minutes, and I didn't find anything.
Yeah, Roger didn't have a single.
Any other corrections needed, so.
I'm feeling neglected here, I didn't get any comments from Roger, so.
You must be
But I-
hitting a groove.
I didn't send any comments, but I did read it, so.
Hakeem, both Hakeem and, not
Roger?
David, Roger, gave me a few comments, so.
I make a motion to approve the minutes after the comments you discussed were addressed, which I assume they have.
There, yeah.
Yeah, and,
Second the motion?
all right, any further discussion? John, any discussion?
No discussion from my part.
Okay. No further discussion, then roll call. John?
John Londa, aye.
Andy O'Neill, aye?
David Jacobson, aye.
Hakeem Jana, aye.
Jackie Mitchell, aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, guys. All right.
So we're at 6, that's great.
Your roll call.
John Londa, aye.
I thought you were gonna hold us up for 2 minutes there.
Andy O'Neill, aye?
Let's discuss it.
David Jacobson, aye.
Hakeem Jana, aye.
Jackie Mitchell, aye.
Thank you, everybody. The meeting is adjourned.
All right.